Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, The Top 5 Reasons P2 Workflow is a Smart Investment for Your Oil and Gas Business. I'm Jenny Olvera, and I will be hosting today's session. We have a few housekeeping items to go over before we start. Today's session is being recorded, and we will email the recording to everyone on today's call. Your line will be muted during the presentation, so if you have a question, please send to all panelists via the chat panel at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. The panelists will address these at the end of the presentation. We don't anticipate any issues, but if we happen upon a technical glitch and the session ends, please try logging back in. I will now pass things over to Tim Wadley to get us started.
Thanks, Jenny. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. I'm Tim Wadley, VP of Integrated Solutions at P2, and I've been working in oil and gas and helping companies become more efficient for over 20 years. Today, we have a unique discussion, a roundtable between ProcessMaker and P2 Energy Solutions. ProcessMaker is a leading BPM tool, and P2 is leveraging ProcessMaker as an OEM solution that has been embedded in P2 solutions to streamline upstream oil and gas business processes. It's an extremely timely topic as prices remain low and companies are looking for ways to do more with less. Let me introduce today's panel. We have Freddie Marcato, Managing Director for the Global Partner Program at ProcessMaker. And Freddie has a background in mobile and cloud technologies and driving digital transformation project. Tim Horan, a Director of Strategic Alliance at ProcessMaker. Tim served 8 years in the U.S. Army and was COO of Golden Key, a real estate technology startup prior to joining ProcessMaker. Finally, Brandy Greek, Product Manager over P2 Workflow at P2 Energy Solutions, has many years of experience in oil and gas accounting and has been with P2 for over 6 years. Let's start off with some general questions. First, Freddie, for you, who is ProcessMaker?
Hey, Tim, thank you for having us in this event. We are very excited to be joining P2 Energy, Brandy, and yourself to talk about the partnership that we have been working on for the last few years. ProcessMaker is the technology that runs P2 Workflow, and the business process management solution is the discipline on which people use various methods to design, model, implement, and optimize business processes. Ultimately, BPM is what people do to create value while running their business in an effective and efficient manner.
That sounds good. So maybe you can describe a little bit, what is BPM?
Sure thing. You know, BPM is this combination of methods and technologies used to create a digital persona of what processes within an organization look like. These processes and the way we manage them has evolved over time to create value within the organization. It's what will differentiate ultimately what a company can deliver in terms of services and products efficiently and effectively to their customers.
I'll jump in here too, Tim. Back to that first question of what is ProcessMaker. I think ProcessMaker is pretty aptly named. ProcessMaker empowers you to make processes. And why would you want to make a process? Well, because as you so clearly put it in one of our testimonials, any business is a series of workflows. And taking that one step further, you have a business, you're running a business because you're solving a problem. So I always think of ProcessMaker as a problem solver. So it's not all about making the business process, but also about running it and managing it, that business process management. And not all BPMs are the same or created equally or equally as powerful. You may only need a BPM that is essentially a series of checklists to manage your business, and that's great. But if you need something to run high volume, complex enterprise level processes that connects to the cloud, then you may need an intelligent BPM and something like ProcessMaker.
Sounds good. Thanks for that detail, Tim. Maybe Freddie and Tim, you guys could talk about what are some of the benefits that clients see from using BPM tools?
Sure. Uh, there are many ways of returning value out of a BPM implementation, but I would say that increased efficiency and the ability to reduce repetitive tasks and the effort that comes along in building those processes would be clearly in the highlight of what a benefit would be. We also make working across multiple departments a very smooth transition of tasks, data, and human interaction. So this would create an environment to foster continuous improvement while streamlining these processes in order to optimize the way approvals, authorizations, and reviews of cases is all about. So I don't know, Tim. What do you think about it?
Tim, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that one? Are you on mute?
No, I think Freddie tackled that pretty well.
Oh, that sounds good. I think one of the things that I've seen is that oftentimes businesses haven't even documented, don't really have a clear understanding of what their business processes are. They're in people's heads, and when something happens, then they process that, and BPM gives you that tool to be able to document those tasks and the process flow across your company, and that by itself is an important, even if you don't automate any of the tasks, is an important bit so that you can continuously improve then on those processes. Building on that a little bit, something that's been in the news quite a bit, particularly around accounting functionality, is RPA, or robotic process automation. How does that fit with BPM?
Let me jump into that. I think RPA has been a great complement to BPM in the way that it has enabled um, our technology, or the BPM technology in general, to access other sources of information, creating this additional ways to interact and exchange data with some legacy systems. So RPA is a great complement to a BPM deployment, and the two work together to enhance a customer experience and create an even larger set of data exchange in general.
Yeah, so whenever I hear an acronym, I like to define it. So RPA, robotic process automation, it's a software technology that makes it easy to build, deploy, manage software tools that emulate human activities. So, put simply, the role of an RPA is to automate repetitive tasks that were previously done by humans, and it can be a really powerful tool because software robots can do tasks much more quickly and much more accurately than you and me. But it is just one part of the solution here. And Freddie mentioned that we're an orchestrator. And I think that's one reason you see this out in the marketplace, that there are BPMs that are acquiring RPAs and RPAs that are acquiring BPMs. So I think it's one tool, an important tool, a really newsworthy tool right now that fits into the overall solution.
Thanks for that detail, Tim. I appreciate that. Now that we have a little bit better understanding of BPM and RPA, how is ProcessMaker different than maybe some of the other BPM tools that are in the market?
That's a great question, and in the sense that we, as Tim had already mentioned, as an orchestrator of data, bringing data in and out and pushing it out into other systems, what we create is an environment that will foster improvement within the organization. So the main differentiator would be around the fact that we deliver a solution through low code that is simple enough to be deployed quickly and effectively to tackle the most common business challenges. You know, things that you may not have in mind at the beginning of a digital transformation effort, leave of absence requests or asset tracking tools. And all of a sudden, those elements or those tasks become repetitive in nature, yet they take a lot of time from the stakeholders and the participants. So, by enabling different teams and departments like HR, legal, to quickly embrace these automation challenges, ProcessMaker is able to come up with quick wins. On the other hand, unlike some other participants that play in the low spectrum, uh, we have a sophisticated interface to create complex solutions that can tackle very challenging projects. Well, multiple parties, multiple elements and systems can interact together to create a smooth process management that can provide lots of value to the organization. Talk about account opening or approvals of purchase orders, vendor selection, and whatnot.
And one
That
thing I
sounds good.
think is interesting with ProcessMaker as a differentiator is there are those two layers. There's the BPM layer, and then there's the low code layer. And that low code layer, just to unpack that a little bit, Gartner talks about low code as being inclusive of no code and low code. So no code is you're developing software without writing any code, essentially just with text. And low code is you have the ability to use some code to make the application. And with ProcessMaker, you really have both. You have the ability to drag and drop onto ProcessMaker, but you also have the ability from a developing perspective to build blocks that can be drag and dropped into your solution. And that's where I like to think of ProcessMaker as a big box of Legos. And growing up, loved playing with Legos, and also enjoyed when the Lego sets were built for me, and I could play with those. So from a low code perspective, you can have the big box of Legos and build anything you want. You can also build those blocks yourself, or you can work with your end users or your customers to create Lego sets and have your customers use those. So I think it's really powerful, this low code movement, especially for what we're calling citizen developers. And citizen developers is basically a user who creates new business applications for consumption by others. And if you're on this call and you're a product person or you're a business person and you're not you're not writing code, developing software, but you have an idea about how your business runs and how you think you can make it better, you can use a low-code solution like ProcessMaker or P2 Workflow to build something to make your business run more efficiently and be more effective.
Yeah, that low code is very powerful. I keep telling our developers at P2 that as soon as we have no code, very, very low code, then I'll be able to create the applications. So I know something that was very important for P2 is just the depth of functionality of ProcessMaker, from the ability to track processes, to visualize where you're at in the steps in a process, to the ability to have mobile applications and mobile approvals and web-based interfaces, and to be able to connect into our application. So there's just so much to ProcessMaker, and we'll get into some of that in a minute. In fact, maybe there's a good time to shift gears a little bit and ask Brandy, tell us a little bit about P2 workflow.
Sure. So for those on the call that may not be aware of who P2 is, we are the largest provider of software for the upstream oil and gas industry. with a focus on land, accounting, and production applications. So what we have done is we have taken ProcessMaker, a best-in-class BPM tool, and embedded it with our products to provide automation and efficiencies across all our domains.
So that's great, Brandy. We're going to get, I know, into some examples here in a minute, but can you tell us what some of the challenges that you see or problems that you see in upstream oil and gas today and how they're managing processes?
Yeah, so a lot of the processes actually in upstream oil and gas today are quite manual, and usually rely on email and Excel. So while there are many good reasons to use both email and Excel, it is easy to lose important details in those long email chains or just having things fall off your radar and then never being sure if you're working with the master or most up-to-date Excel workbook. So there's also practically no audit trail for these items that go through those avenues, which can create more time spent when audits roll around.
So maybe you could give us an example of a workflow then that addresses some of those issues.
Yes, so actually the new well workflow that we have is really good to highlight this because usually at the beginning, well, we start at the beginning of the process, even before AFEs are created or ownership's identified. And our customers need a place to capture those well details, but they don't always have a home in our software. So our customers have been using Excel to keep track of these details. And again, Excel is great for so many things, but really shouldn't be the source of record for these well details. Simply because, again, there's very little to no security. You're not sure if you've got the master copy, and there's just no audit trail. It's hard to pinpoint who changed what when. So the new well workflow provides that one source of truth for the well details, and it automates any and all communications that need to take place during the entire life cycle. It's also keeps your audit trail for you and can remove all those unknowns that are simply there when you use Excel and email.
So can you give us some examples or of the benefits that P2 customers have seen after implementing P2 workflow?
Yes. So our customers have let us know that they are seeing a significant reduction in repetitive tasks, especially those tasks that are completed multiple times each month, such as an ownership change or a material transfer. If we focus on ownership changes, what I like about the workflow we have is that it actually integrates with our accounting and land solutions to eliminate things like printing out owner reports so that you can track pay balances and every well that the owner has interest in. And it also provides the ability to email out external owners, maybe new owners, regarding document requirements that are specific to each company that are needed to process the change all the way through. And just like the new well workflow, approving and email communication is automated. So it really goes to eliminate those paper heavy manual tasks associated with ownership changes. I also mentioned material transfer. So this one's really cool because it connects the field to the warehouse to the back office all on one system, and of course has the automated emails and approvals, but it takes it one step further to automate taking that data that's already been captured in the field in the warehouse and putting it into the financial system, completely eliminating the need for any dual data entry in your back office. So we're talking about these streamlining, and it's just really led to decreased departmental costs because there is no longer a need to reconcile multiple systems, create audit packets, by saving and scanning, and all that reduces time spent on audits.
Sounds good. So I think your video froze up there for a minute, Brandy, but it
Oh,
looks like it's working now and we could hear you through that. So that was good.
good.
Um, so next, maybe you could talk about how ProcessMaker is integrated with the P2 applications.
Oh, sure. I'm glad you asked. It's actually a seamless integration. And here, let me share my screen. It might be easier to have a visual for this one. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Perfect. So what we're looking at here is actually the new well approval workflow that I mentioned earlier. And we can see the swim lanes really breaking out the segregation of duties. We can also see which tasks are manual, so entered by a person. We've got our well details and approval, but we also have these things called script tasks. And here's the automation. So once the new well information has been entered and approved, P2 workflow powered by ProcessMaker will take all those details and send them to your financial system so that they are ready to use whenever revenue or JIB, accounts payable, whoever needs them first, the well will be there. So and even our error messages are automated. So that's nice. So it's just such a huge benefit to have the ability to connect all your systems and all your departments in one place.
In this example, it's the data after it's been processed through workflow. I'm assuming that you're able to kick off a workflow if data changes, like a well status or something in the system as well.
That's correct. We can have automated starts to workflows, such as well status change or name changes, you name it. We call them event triggering.
So I know that clients may have a lot of other applications outside of P2 applications that they want to include in these business processes. So, Freddie, maybe you could talk a little bit about, just how does ProcessMaker connect to those other data sources, and what are the capabilities there?
Sure, sure. The sophisticated way of getting it done is through endpoints, through APIs, and modern interfaces to exchange data, which ProcessMaker makes very easy to accomplish by having a very low effort approach into building these connections and reusing those services from within multiple tasks and processes. On the other hand, our product is capable of tapping into data coming from multiple sources, like we had mentioned at the beginning through RPA and other scripting alternatives. But then we get into more technical and not so low code approaches that Tim had mentioned before. And this sophistication can enable very powerful and rich experiences for users to engage with multiple systems from one central point that ProcessMaker can provide.
So really, to sum it up, I guess you're saying that you can easily plug and play with SQL databases or Oracle databases or whatever data that you have in your organization. You can connect to it and use that as a part of your process.
Absolutely. And namely other trending applications and systems within the enterprise that may be popular in the ERP segment or CRMs, that they can all be gathered together for a great customer experience.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, Brandy, maybe you could talk about some other examples of P2 workflows that P2 has developed.
Sure. So we do have a manual journal entry workflow, and that uses that event triggering or that automatic triggering that you asked me a few moments ago. Once a journal voucher is saved in a financial system, it actually automatically triggers a workflow, grabs all of your edit reports and the journal voucher data, routes it for approval. And once approved, it will go ahead and post that voucher and again, retrieve your completion reports and then save everything off to your document repository, making it very seamless, excuse me, by cutting out the need to have to print, scan, and then maybe even use SneakerNet to get an approval. Cutting these things out can actually save up to 15 minutes per journal entry. We also have a request for quote. That is one of our latest workflows, and that is, as the name suggests, used to seek quotes on any materials a company may need by emailing multiple vendors, capturing all the information that they are providing, and then can even automatically award the winners with your business. This, of course, can be used to expand to connect to a workflow for purchase orders and even invoices to really tie up for that beautiful three-way match.
That sounds great. So can you give us some, some examples of, or show us some screen captures maybe of ProcessMaker and how that looks and the value that that provides?
Absolutely. Let me reshare my screen here. All right, are you seeing it again?
Yes.
All right. So you had mentioned earlier, Tim, that ProcessMaker provides us the ability with P2 Workflow to have clear visibility into each and every task. So that's where this process map comes into play. So what we're seeing here, we see our swim lanes and everything we saw earlier, but now we have boxes that are color-coded. Color-coded green means those steps are complete. Gray is still waiting for the workflow to get to those steps. And then red means that the workflow is still on that step. In this case, our first step is still red because this ownership change workflow requires 2 approvals. So once the second approver moves it along, we would see all these move. The visibility is great for not just individual processes, but to really work on that continuous improvement and see where you can take each and every one of your business processes and make it just that much more efficient. I went the wrong way and I do apologize. This is an example of one of our custom forms. These are built using drag and drop functionality, so it's something even you, Tim, or myself could do. And it's great because you can add in fields here that may not have a home in the system, but you still need to capture those details. So again, fully customizable, real easy to build, and very useful.
That sounds good, Brandy. I'm not sure I could do it, but I'm sure you can. So I do want to remind people that if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat window, and please send them to all the panelists, and we'll get to questions here in just a moment. So another question I wanted to ask Brandy, just about the OEM experience and working with ProcessMaker. Can you give us some details on how that has worked?
It's actually been super fantastic. ProcessMaker has been a true partner in that they are there to support us every step of the way, whether it's a simple question we might have about something we're trying to do, or participating here with us on this webinar. Very swift, very accurate answers, always from support. So zero complaints. In fact, I am extremely happy to be partnered with ProcessMaker.
That sounds good.
Let me jump in here, Tim.
You bet.
Yeah, let me jump in here because I also want to praise Brandy and yourself and the team at P2 Energy, because building this partnership, it's been a process, and we're very glad to have you as a company that's using ProcessMaker to deliver value to your customers. So that's a great way to take that technology into the hands of other users that can build on their success and the services that they provide.
Well, thank you, Freddie. I appreciate that. All right, so getting into the open questions section, if people would like to type in an answer or question, please do that in the chat. They can also raise their hand, and Jenny can unmute you so you can ask your question in person. We do have one question that just came in regarding performance. So how does ProcessMaker support scalability?
Let me take that one, Tim. ProcessMaker is a very performing platform. It has been deployed in a wide array of use cases for multiple industries. And just the mere fact that we have over 1 million downloads speak of the volume of the number of deployments that ProcessMaker has globally. and it runs millions of cases a month for tens of thousands of users in a global setting through cloud services, 7 by 24. So it's quite a performing platform to rely your business on.
That sounds good. I appreciate that. I will, at the end, I'll just say that we are going to have contact information. So if people have additional questions, they can certainly send those if they want more detail. So Brandy, this one's probably for you, but just, P2 has different accounting solutions, Enterprise Upstream and Bolo, and how do the workflows work across those different applications?
Great question. Thank you for whoever posed that. So we do have APIs for for all of our developed workflows that are available from day one. So whether you're using Enterprise Upstream, Bolo, or Excalibur, we do choose to connect through those APIs that we discussed earlier, but we can also connect, as you mentioned, to SQL, so Excalibur SQL Connect, or Welland, or Oracle databases. So so many ways.
That sounds good. I actually missed a question earlier, Brandy, that maybe ties into this, but how does P2 offer this solution?
Yep. So we do have our out-of-the-box workflows, some of which I mentioned here today: manual journal entry, new well, and those are ready to go from day one. It's that plug and play. But we also build and have custom workflows, or can customize any of our out-of-the-box ones, to really help ensure that every customer's specifications are met for what drives the most time and cost savings for their company.
That sounds good. So yeah, once a client gets it in-house, then I think that oftentimes they'll buy it to solve one problem, and then they'll see that the tool can be used for many different problems, addressing those problems. So that's exciting to see.
That is
The
correct.
a
To,
question
to
around, go ahead.
to that point, Tim, it is typical that a customer would take ProcessMaker to address a specific pain point and deploy the solution for contract management or one of the processes that Brandy has already mentioned. But quickly, there is a contagious effect that allows ProcessMaker to expand into the organization, because the learning process, the learning curve has already been tackled. So moving that solution into other areas of the company, of the business, is quite easily accomplished. So partners like P2 and ourselves are ready to jump in and help our customers create even more value than it was initially planned for.
That sounds good. That's good detail, Freddie. Here's another question around, does P2 workflow support mobile approvals? Brandy, I guess that one's for you.
I can take it. It does, actually, and I'm sure Freddie or Tim can maybe add a little bit more color than I have here. But ProcessMaker is available on phones, tablets, and PCs. It's web-based, so it does allow for mobile approvals, even something called action by email, where you can approve directly from your email without having to log into the system.
Absolutely. And additional to that channel, which is very popular, actions by email, the responsive nature of our product enables a very smooth transition from the desktop into the mobile experience through tablets and phones. Furthermore, we engage with SMS platforms as well as instant messaging solutions to even create more points of contact with participants in a given process. So the transition from the desktop to the mobile has been already taken care of, and it creates a great experience for all users.
Thank you, Freddie and Brandy, for those. So I'm not seeing any more questions. Oh, well,
We did
let me see. We
one.
just got one, another one here. Can we use ProcessMaker as an archiving system? So to be able to edit
Yeah.
information and being able then to track back that those
Right.
changes.
So let me take on that question because I see multiple elements into it. When you think archiving, you think of documents that can be stored or particular cases that are run through the process. So on both cases, ProcessMaker has evolved a lot in terms of adding document management features and functionality that allows us to create a comprehensive take on archiving for documents that are used within a process. And you can also go back to a specific workflow or a case that has been run at any given moment to consult the data while logging and keeping track of any changes that are created. So in the end, you have a very rich history of interactions with the user, how many times they've changed address or how many changes have they made to their personal records or transactions incurred with the company and so on. So that's on our side. Perhaps, Brandy, you can elaborate on what happens on the P2 workflow itself.
Sure. So as far as archiving documents and things like that, we haven't actually had any customers that have wanted to use P2 workflow as a document repository. They usually all have their own, such as in our space DocView or OnBase, and we've been able to connect with those seamlessly. So we don't.
I would
Yeah,
add,
we've never.
Brandy, that when we think about archiving and dated editing, like name changes, name and address, or changes to the well, or ownership changes, those are audit details as well. And so,
Yes.
definitely those workflows would be considered archived or audit of what has changed on that, looking at the full life cycle of the ownership of that well, for example, or the well itself from inception through AFE all the way through the entire production cycle. So,
Yeah, if
uh,
we look at it from that point of view, then yes, P2 workflow, ProcessMaker, they capture every single interaction. So if I do something, Monday at 10 a.m. and then Tim does something Monday at 2:37 p.m., we will have that noted, and we can actually take all those details and put them on a cover sheet, if you will, for that audit packet, just to have all of those dates and times, who did what when.
Right. And that also creates a very nice layer of what we call the SLA, service level agreement. So at some point, you can actually meet or exceed customer expectations by providing outcomes within a time frame that has been planned or offered to the end customer, the end user. So to summarize, tracking changes to data is a core element in a sound business process management experience so that you can audit, you can secure transactions, and you can consult the information that has been processed through a BPM such as ProcessMaker.
thanks for that detail, Freddie and Brandy. Great discussion. Um, we are happy to provide demos, and we will customize those to your business needs. And so we'll contact you if you're interested, or please contact P2 as well, and we can set that up for you. The next question, do you have any examples of dashboards showing the progress of all workflows?
So we do. Oh,
Wait, do you have something you can show
No,
right now, Brandy?
I
I didn't
do.
want to. Oh, perfect. Okay.
great.
That one. Let me know when you can see.
There we go.
Yeah,
All
we can see
right.
it.
So please keep in mind, everybody on the call, this is our development area, so it might not reflect what's happening in an actual business. But our the dashboards, and again, Freddie or Tim, please feel free to jump in if I misspeak or leave anything out. But the dashboards are something that you can build. So whether you want to see all the cases for all users, all the cases for one user, or maybe by process, where they're at in the process, need to escalate, you can build those dashboards, and they come in a few different ways: pie charts, and bar graphs, and they all have the ability to drill down. So you can see that I actually have 6 cases that are outstanding and waiting for me to take action on. Or if we look here, we see these are all users, and then each color is for each workflow. So maybe I'm interested in the Bolo changes approval. I would go over here and find that. But it can be narrowed down to, again, to only your domain or only workflows that you have interest in.
Right.
Yeah, for example, one workflow that we have on Enterprise Upstream is the revenue process, and it can show you all the different closes that are going on for each facility or gathering system, how you choose to close and where that's at in the process. Be another way to look at that. So Freddie, I cut you off. I apologize. What were you going to say?
Not at all. Not at all. I wanted to sort of join in the conversation because the dashboards are a very important element in a user experience, and the platform has evolved in a way that through dynamic UIs we can create specific and custom-made dashboards for specific users or user groups that require certain information to be available to them in a very optimized way. So this concept of dynamic UIs and advanced searches would have a very useful experience and feature-rich exchange of data with those user groups.
Yeah, kind of building on that a little bit, I would say that if you see like one person is overloaded, Brandy was talking about one person has so many cases, you can, as a manager, you can actually shift that workload so that you can move cases to another person, so that, you know, you can balance that. It has the capability to recognize when people are on vacation and those types of things so that the workflows don't get stale, don't get hung up. You can have escalations. So if a workflow is, if a step is not processed within, you know, a certain number of days or even hours, so we've had clients who said, hey, if this hasn't been responded to in 4 hours, then we want to escalate it. So all of those capabilities are part of the tool set itself.
Yeah, picking up on that a little bit. So a dashboard, a visualization of data is going to be customized, as Freddie said, for each individual or each individual group for them to be able to take action. That's the purpose of the dashboard. So you may have one department that's going to care more about one set of information than another, and those can be customized for that function and also for level of visibility. If you have some info, some data that's collected that you want to be set aside for some executive level people in your company, then you can do that. So it's all customizable based on the use case and the function and the level of seniority at the company.
Yeah, good discussion. Thank you for that that detail. Are there any other questions? I see that one of our users has actually offered to show, but we'll take that offline and we'll you know, schedule demos as people, like I said, that are interested, and we can move forward with that. Jenny, are you seeing any other questions or anybody raising their hand?
I don't see anything else new at this time.
Okay. Oh, well, we still have a few minutes, so if people have questions, you can see on the screen here our contact information. If you would like to reach out to us, please feel free to reach out. We will be sending out this recording, so you'll have that information at your disposal as well. I'm not seeing any other questions come in, so I think I'd like to thank the panelists thank ProcessMaker for participating with us very much. Freddie and Tim and Brandy, thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Jenny.
Great, thank you all. Thank you to our presenters and everyone that attended today's webinar. This now concludes the session.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.